Well, welcome back to the Taking Flight podcast. This podcast is hosted by Mission Church in the suburbs of Chicago. We are so glad that you have joined us today. On the podcast today, I have our executive pastor, Dan Ruta. Today, we're going to unpack all things Planter Course. The Planter Course is the third course in our growth track. We've kind of been in a growth track series the last few episodes. And so if you've been wondering, how do you equip people to live a life on mission? This is the episode for you. We are going to link some really helpful resources that we have found helpful in our Planter course. And as always, we would love to chat with you. So if you have any questions at the end of this episode, just reach out to us and send us an email. We would love to chat with you. But let's dig in today and see what it takes to launch a missional movement at your church. Well, welcome back, Dan.
Hey, Kylie. How are you?
I'm great. I am great. So had you on a couple months ago. We talked all things Alpha, and we unpacked that. And then last month, Tommy and I talked all things Partner Course.
Nice.
And so today, we want to unpack our third course.
The Planter Course.
Course. And so I thought we would just get into the details. For those who are just joining us on this podcast, I would encourage them to listen to an episode that Tommy and Tobias recorded about missional communities and best practices, because you're going to get a fuller picture of what are we talking about when we say the Planter Course and our goal is to launch missional communities and like, what are you talking about? So just an encouragement to those of you who are just joining us to go back and listen to that episode. I think it'll be helpful context. So today...
Yeah, because that one's the after what we're talking about today.
Correct. Yeah. So we're going to give a little prequel now.
Cool.
We're going to rewind and really unpack what is the Planter Course. But I thought we would just start with where the Partner Course leaves off. So the Partner Course, the end of it, let's recap that, and then we'll kind of jump into the Planter Course.
Yeah, I'm sure as you discussed, just for those listening in case they didn't hear it, the Partner Course, that's the second course of our growth track, exists to form partners. And you debrief this, a partner is a follower of Jesus who gathers differently at Mission Church. They embody our first value. From there, partners can go to the Planter Course. Yes. And the Planter Course exists to launch planters in missional communities. And so I'm sure we'll want to define what a planter is and what a missional community is. Yeah. But the clear outcome of the Planter Course is to launch planters in missional communities.
Yep, very good. Let's just go ahead and define what is a planter of mission.
A planter is a partner of mission who goes missionally in a missional community.
Very good.
So just like partners of mission embody our first value, well, partners, they grow and they mature, they get equipped in-house as they gather differently, as they choose to grow intentionally. Then they graduate, if you will, after going through the Planter Course, and they are now no longer just partners, they are planters who go missionally in missional communities, living out our third value.
Yes.
Gather, grow, go.
Yes.
So when we say go, that isn't just like a weekend, now we've gathered here for a 60-minute service, go and be it's not a large room scattering plan. When we say go missionally, we mean you have completed the growth track, you're a planter, and you're going in a missional community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have a clearly defined top line. We also do not mean that we are sending them to not return to the aircraft carrier.
Right.
We're not planting them, because that could be confusing. Because I think in some contexts that they are sent out to plant new local churches or like a church, a home church movement or something like that.
Correct.
So with the aircraft carrier behind us, we send them out and then they return to the aircraft carrier to be equipped and filled up. And so they are still very much part of Mission Church.
And people may be asking, like, I suspected that when partners became planters and launched missional communities, they would be investing more of their life out there, which they are. So I assumed their engagement on volunteer teams would like go down because something's got to give.
Right.
And I've just been pleasantly surprised, like they don't.
Right.
They continue to volunteer faithfully. Now we give them total and full permission, Like, hey, what was good for you for a season, you now need to leverage on the mission, that time, those resources. But I've just kind of found, no, they continue to engage. Just to your point, they are so connected to the aircraft carrier. They land, they gather for our services. They go to the planter tables for equipping.
Yeah.
They stay engaged as volunteers. And so there is no take flight, see you later.
Right.
They are such an integral part of the community. That is Mission Church.
Right, which I would have leaned towards your instinct as well,
Yeah.
that especially because you give them permission. I mean, I've even heard you and Tommy be as clear as like, if you need to stop tithing here so that you can generously
generous within your mission
bless
community, yeah.
these people, then please do that. And they're not the ones who do that. And then, hey, your time, if you need your time back so that you can invest in the people group that you've been sent to, please do that. And they are our...
And I don't think that they're just awesome behavior people. I think the Lord has actually done a work in them.
Yes.
Where as they have committed to be faithful volunteers and as they've started giving financially,
Yeah.
the Lord has blessed and honored that. And so they're operating more so out of a place of abundance.
Yes.
And this has actually changed and transformed my life. And so they don't have to.
Yes, I think about, I'll just name drop here, Anj Muley.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's around all the time volunteering on Grace's hospitality team. She is an amazing volunteer, a partner here at Mission. And also she's running an offsite alpha
Yep.
for her missional community
Yep.
with Italians in the community. And then she's also here on Wednesdays
Yeah.
leading a young adult alpha circle,
Yep.
which it's just, and she told us, she texted us, when you have tasted
Yes.
mission, when you have tasted what it feels like to share Jesus with others out there, I just want more of that.
Yep.
And she's living this transformed life.
Amen.
And then, I mean,
Yeah.
her journey is so exciting.
So I want to just have that little conversation with you to bridge the gap for those listening. Like, so what happens when partners become planters
Yeah.
and what things stop and start and all
Yes.
that? But we can stay focused on the planter course.
Good. Okay. Well, let's first of all just celebrate that we just finished our planter course for this winter term.
We did.
And we launched 50 brand new missional communities with some probably still to be launched.
Yep.
We have the map. And we have some yellow maps that we're close. We're kind of discipling them through launching. So praise God for the 50 brand new missional communities. That brings us to 270.
270.
Yeah, our vision is to see 1,000.
Yep.
Got
Some wood to chop.
Yeah, we do. But as I was thinking about this podcast, I wanted to back up and say, all right, so you started with one,
Yes.
right? And was that in 2018?
Yeah, I believe it was. So our original
Okay.
growth track was 4 courses, and then we've consolidated it to 3 courses. And we had one in 2018. And that was Mike and Christy Merrill, and their Hanover Highlands
Yes.
Missional Community,
Yep.
which is an elementary school. They had their people group focused. And so we had one that came out of our final course of the growth track. And so, now to be at 270 a number of years later and just starting to see the multiplication
Yes.
engine, because that's how this stuff actually begins to feel and tangibly express more of a movement
Right.
when you're not only launching them from the growth track, but they're also multiplying from within missional communities. So we're starting to see that happen as well.
Yeah, so then I just wanted to ask, how did you go from 1 to 270? And what's the first, what's the first thing that you stopped or started doing?
Yeah, so we clarified the vision, which is why we talk about this to church leaders so much. Because
Right.
if you can't define where you're going and you can't paint a picture of it, then you can't make wise decisions about your growth track that you're running or not running.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did was we clarified the vision and we went, yes, it is a movement of Jesus in the 10 in our lifetime. Then we aligned systems. And so for everybody listening in, once you have the clarity of vision, you need to align your systems to it and go, are the systems we have in place
Yep.
leading our people toward that vision? And then you just inspect the outcomes. And so when we started, we were inspecting the outcomes of some of the courses. And I'll just kind of pick on this last step of the growth track for
Sure.
a bit. Because it was doing good stuff. It was helping people go on a self-discovery. What am I passionate about? Deep look at my story. Deep look at like what gift sets do I have? And we did such a dive into self-introspection, which I think sounds like it would be beneficial.
Right.
But when you inspect the outcomes, did not lead to outward mission ever. And so I know that this is a very common thing in the church world. You go on this deep self-discovery guide, hoping that that will reinvigorate outward mission.
Right.
And it just never did.
Right.
And so we just went, okay, we're going to stop that. And we are going to stop focusing on self-discovery. And we are going to lift our head up. And we are going to look at the words of Jesus. And we are going to orient outward on mission.
Yeah.
And so just making those tweaks, clarifying the vision, aligning the system, inspecting the outcomes of the course, that just made missional communities actually get launched. You know, we redid the map. That's some of the systems clarifying stuff. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and we have received that question about spiritual gifts. So when do you talk about spiritual gifts on the growth track? Is that in the partner course or the planter course? And we have said, neither.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't. And we have had to unpack that with church leaders to just say, well, when do people discover their spiritual gifts? And certainly, you know, I have helped people discover, but it's not part of our formal course because, to your point, it does not lead to the outcome of them being on mission.
Right.
In fact, it actually sometimes paralyzes people to say, okay, I have the gift of teaching and hospitality, so I must
start a course online and I need to grow in my teaching before I do anything.
Sure.
Which is an unintended consequence of the heart of the whole thing.
And we're like, actually, you can lift your eyes up and look around at the people who you are rubbing shoulders with already, and they would be so blessed by your gift of hospitality, by your gift of teaching.
You got it. And on the mission in a missional community, the gifts are both discovered, expressed, and by a community affirmed. Which that's a really healthy formula for maturity.
Yeah.
You discover them in practice. You get to practice them in a real-time environment, and they're confirmed and affirmed by community. That's really healthy.
Yeah.
And so that's a healthy expression. And I would just encourage those that are listening, like the spiritual gifts discovered, that's great, but everything you're leading people in discovery to, what is going to be your answer for deployment of that thing? So it's if you're saying in this course of the growth track, they do a spiritual assessment and they will be deployed on a volunteer team to hold a door, they don't need to discover that spiritual gift to hold that door. So I would just encourage, and this is what we were going into, the discovery and the planning needs to go to deployment of a larger vision than just a volunteer role.
Yes.
They may not actually need to be gifted in teaching or exercise a spiritual gift. And I'm not belittling a role but I think in church leadership, sometimes we go on a strong discovery and then we deploy it to something that's less than the mission of God.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. We could keep going on and on about this. I want to get really nitty gritty down into the weeks of the course, what it looks like, the 8 weeks. We get a lot of questions around what do you do? And so let's just start with the fact that it is 8 weeks long.
8 weeks.
So this is an 8-week course. We meet on Monday nights. We're the first night.
6:30 to 8.
Yep, 6:30 to 8. 90 minutes does feel fast. A lot of times, but we get it done. And so would you just go over kind of week by week? This is what I did for the partner course with Tommy. I just went week by week, shared the highlight. And so if we could go week one, share what it's about, maybe the one highlight that just really sticks out to you.
I'm going to cheat and use your planter course book that's sitting right here.
Great.
Yeah, so week one, a movement vision. It's everything you see with the aircraft carrier. We go over J.D. Greer's, the 3 illustrations of ship, aircraft carrier, battleship, cruise ship. And that is things they've heard before from the partner course. And so that is just the refresher, the reestablishing of who we are as a church. That's week one. Week two, the gospel on mission. And so it's really important that people know their own gospel story and can articulate in a very simple, winsome way to somebody who doesn't have any faith what the gospel is.
Yep.
And so it's the gospel on mission. So we help them do that. They practice that in their circles.
Yep. They get homework.
Then the following week is the way of Jesus. A lot of that is from Hugh Halter's content, who's a missiologist, out of his book called Flesh.
Yep.
And we talk about, hey, because this is a number one question when people enter the planter course, like, how do we do this? Are we knocking on doors? Are we standing on corners of intersections?
Yep.
What are you asking us to do
Yes.
here? And a lot of the barrier to going on mission is just the fear of, what are you asking us to do? So we teach them the way of Jesus from Hugh's content that's modeled after the ministry of Jesus.
Yep.
Incarnation, reputation, conversation, confrontation, transformation. So we walk them through those things. That's that week 3. Week 4, we go over the missional action plan. This is our one-pager, their plan for their missional community. We use the language top line. It helps them discern and discover the top line non-Christian people group. Every missional community has a helping insert non-Christian people group, find and follow Christ. So we help them discover their top line, who they can go with other Christians in their missional community, and how they're going to live out gathering, growing, and going as a missional community.
And really,
so we have them do this.
Yep, that's our mission. Our mission is helping people find and follow Christ. Last episode in the partner course, we said, we're teaching people that mission becomes powerful when it becomes personal.
Yep,
so we
put a
taught
person,
them.
a name.
And now we're going back from person to a people.
Yep.
And so
You got it.
this is the week where we're tying it all back into, okay, this is still our mission. Everyone is living out our mission.
And to your point, them experiencing, praying for, inviting a person in the partner course now rings a bell, and they have real life experience, and they feel what it feels like when they invite someone to church. And we go, now, who's the school or the soccer team or the gym that you work out? A people group who don't know Jesus that are where you're at. And now they have some context and handles. And they go, oh, it's what you've equipped me to do at a small scale, at a larger scale of impact with other people on my team.
Yes.
And so they're like connecting the dots. And the Lord's like, yeah, more of this.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do that. That's week 4. We introduce them to the missional action plan. Week 5, we have some Q&A follow-up every single week. Tommy and I, or whoever's facilitating the course, they fill out yellow Post-it questions. And so we'll just do like rapid fire debunking stuff or real-time coaching. So we do some of that at that week 5. And then we have a planter panel where we have veteran planters of missional communities sitting up at a panel, and we basically ask them the questions. Who's your top line? How are you guys gathering, growing, and going? Where are you in your plan to multiply? What are some stories of what God's doing? And it's just helpful for those in the course to hear planters real time, their experience.
Even some barriers.
Even barriers, where we got stuck.
Right.
Where we course corrected.
Yep. Yeah, and that is a helpful week for a lot of people who a light bulb goes off. Even some of the hesitancies that they have about things like, we don't let planters use our building for the first year. You know, they have to go out. You have to go out. You have to launch from here. And stories of planters who have seen the Lord work in their missional communities because they were forced out of the building. So barriers are helpful. And then stories, light bulbs begin going off. I think this is really the first week where people see, okay, I could do that. I could definitely do that. And I could see myself.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then week 6 really affirms
Yes.
that I can do that, because they actually practice a core gathering with the missional community, the Christians in that missional community. We call that the core. And so they practice that in the course. Now we tell them, hey, those that you have been sitting with for 6 weeks now, that is not your missional community. Like we are not dictating. The people that you're sitting with are your missional community.
Right.
So find a people group together. You're just growing intentionally together in this course. So we set that, because that's something that people are confused at. They're like, okay, so I'm at this table in the planter course. Did you just assign me the Christians that I'm going on mission with? No. So we have to tell them, hey, for this practice week, you guys are going to be practicing what you are going to start doing with your missional community after these 8 weeks are over.
Correct.
So they do a practice night, and we go, here's what you do. You're going to practice the 30-30-30. 30 minutes of gathering and eating together, 30 minutes of growing in God's word, and 30 minutes of going where you are planning your missional activity and praying for your missional people by name.
Yep.
And so we just give them practice in-house for what they're going to be doing in their house.
Correct.
And so that's what that gathering practice week is. We will have chairs and we will have paper plates and utensils.
Yes.
You guys figure everything else out.
Yes.
Because that's what real life is like.
Correct.
When you invite missional community over to your house, you're going, what are we doing for food? Are we ordering pizzas on the cheap? Are we doing potluck? So they figure that out. And then they celebrate highs and lows of their week over a meal, and they laugh together. And then we transition them into Bible reading, where now they've picked up in the partner course the Mission Church Bible reading app, the triangle questions. So now we're just going, you're practicing what you've picked up, but now in a missional community preparation setting.
Yes.
So they just read the Bible reading questions, do what they've been doing, practicing.
Correct.
And the light bulbs are going off and they're going, oh, it's just all the stuff we've been doing in isolation.
Yeah.
Now just together in community.
Yes.
And then they pray for their people group by name. And so they practice that. So they leave that night going, oh, we could do this in our homes, in our missional communities.
Yeah. And not only do they say we could do this, but they want to do this. And for anyone who's been following along for all of our podcasts, what you just described, the gather, grow, go, those are our values. So they are literally practicing our values in community. And the push, we receive a lot of pushback or questions. I'll say questions about how do you not have life groups? How are people growing? How do you not have small groups, community groups? Well, this is it. This is what we're trying to help people understand, is that we're not sending you out alone. We do not want to send you out alone. And so you are going to find a group of believers who are on mission with you, and you're going to do this. You're going to circle up around a table. You're going to eat a meal together. You're going to be in the Word, and then you're going to pray for these people who do not yet know Jesus, and then you're going to go and serve them, and you're going to have them over for meals or work out with them at the gym, whatever your go is.
And the whatever your go is what we help them discover and write down on their map.
Yes.
And so we coach them in that. And so they might be like, we know it's my neighborhood. There's myself and this person or another mission family that we're friends with that all live in the same neighborhood. And so we're like, okay, here's some go stuff. Why don't you guys just start prayer walking your neighborhood? Put that down as a practical go. Host a block party. Put that down as a practical go. These are 2 or 3 things that you can do over the summer. Let's start small, trust the Lord, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And so that's to your point of them practicing the go. That's what they distill down and crystallize on their map. So that's the whole gathering practice week. And then week 7, prepare to launch. That's basically just relational coaching, where we have margin in the course to just, if they're stuck, we kind of move around the circles, work with the circle hosts. They go through their pre-flight checklist that is in the book, where they discern with the Lord and with the community of their circle and the host, like, I am saved.
Yes.
I have been baptized.
Yes.
I can articulate my gospel story. I have filled out my map. I am committed to being a planter who's a part of Mission Church, to be known in my life as a follower of Jesus. These are all just like you inspect a plane and you go, it's healthy to go. They do that with the Lord and their host under our guidance, and they go, here we go. I'm healthy to go. And so that's part of that preparing to launch week as well.
Yeah, and part of the excitement of that is just casting vision for, hey, we want these things to be true of you, because when you're out on mission, we expect that the Lord is going to meet you and you're going to help your friends find and follow Christ. And then when they find and follow Christ, we want you to be the one to baptize them. And if you're not baptized, then, so it prompts a lot of great discipleship questions for the planters who are currently in the course, which is exciting.
And then week 8 is the commissioning week. And it's basically just a big party where everyone comes up and they read their maps, their
Yeah.
top line people group. The hosts of the circles pray commissioning prayers over them. They put sticker dots on the map to see their contribution in this movement of Jesus. And it's just a fun, like really God-honoring celebratory day.
Yeah, it is a really fun day. Last course, we didn't have any dots in Wooddale, and for the first time ever, we
Three
had
of them.
3
Yeah.
missional communities launch out of Wooddale, and that was a big party. And then this last one, just to hear how many gyms and neighborhoods were listed was like, oh Lord, let's just cover every gym in the 10.
Yep. It is fun to see the theme. There's always kind of this unofficial theme of like missional communities that are launching out of a course, and gyms were definitely this one. Like every other missional community was like, our gym, here's the gym they named. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, we have it covered.
Sweating in the spirit.
Yeah. All right. So that's the 8 weeks.
Yep.
That's kind of the high level content. Would you just take us through the flow of the night? It's a little different for every night, but do we eat a meal? Do we press play on a video? What does the planter course look like?
Yeah, I mean, you'd remember better than I, but I think we have a meal on night 1, maybe just to entice. Hey, we're kicking off the growth track. And we have a meal for the closing week.
Yeah, it's a celebration.
We've probably mentioned this before. Remember, our growth track appropriately reduces the dependency on the structure of the church intentionally. So, Alpha, it's all free. Food every time. The partner course, you're starting to volunteer. We continue to have food. The planter course, hey, as we're now workers being sent out, we're rolling up our sleeves. You're bringing the contribution more. That's just healthy. So we do have food on like the first and last week. There's 2 facilitators for the course in the way that we're recording this podcast, Tommy and I. So there's 2 up there, and it's way more untucked and unbuttoned than the other courses. It's much more relational. There's a lot more knee-to-knee circle work with a host who is a missional community planter. Yeah. They are basically the voices that reinforce what they're hearing from up front practically in their circle. Yep. So we start every week with hot seat questions from the Post-it notes. We deliver whatever content focus of the week it's going to be. Mixed in that, we'll throw them to their circles for debriefing or discussion questions based on what they just heard. And then there's always some, let's get them working toward their map. So we don't bring this out on week 1, but we do go in week 1 and 2, like, hey, who might a people group be? So we lead them in some exercises. Think about your week. Where do you go frequently? What sports are your kids at? And so we start priming the pump of who might your people group be. So the flow of the night is facilitation from up front with answering questions, delivering content, and then circle discussion time and application towards their map creation. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, it's really simple. I know that as the growth track director, I probably shouldn't have a favorite course, but if you asked me what was my favorite course, it is this course. I love the planter course. I still learn things from the planter course. I feel like the content, it really is that puzzle framework, the 4 corners, that example that you give of the growth track, where we're not giving you the entire picture. We're not going to fill in all the pieces, because the Lord is going to write it. I mean, he's going to create a unique picture for you. We want to give you the framework, these 4 corners, and then we can't wait to see how the Lord fills this in. And so there's just some really rich content, but then it does lead to movement. So I mean, I've shared with you many times, like I have led at my former church, my former role, many discipleship courses, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, just myself wanting to live a life on mission, and then bringing others with me who are like, yes, I want to live that too. And thinking, okay, there's 20 of us. We're definitely going to see some traction and some movement here. And then at the end of the course to just say, that was really, really awesome. I'm going to think about it. Yeah. I'm going to think about it. Yeah. And I really, really love my life group. We've, been together for 10 years. We've done a lot of life together. And I get that. I do. But then it just wasn't leading to the outcome of a life on mission. Yep. And I do think we share this, like, I don't even know what to call it, but this, all right, Lord, you're going to meet us in this, right? Because it really is, it's just so simple and so basic. And it really is the way of Jesus. And then we get to the end. And just even last week, I was like, all right, Lord, what are you going to do here?
Yep.
I just don't know if it's going to click. I don't know how many people are going to get it. But when you give them this framework and you show them what Jesus says and the way that he did it, they're like, okay, yeah. And then you give them a framework to just go do it. Mm-hmm. They do it.
Yep. And to the leader listening, like the clarity and the content direction and the intentionality behind leading that room in this course well does have an impact.
Yeah.
And we cannot control when the Lord reveals understanding or the names and they go, oh,
yeah,
it's that simple. I can start in and we've joked about this, even with the people, they have been in the planter course maybe 3 times.
Yes.
And Tommy or I will say the exact same thing.
Yes.
And they'll be like, I have never heard that.
Yeah, you should say that all the time.
You should say that all the time.
You're like,
and we just kind of look at each other and them and we're like, awesome.
We do.
Awesome.
I'll write that down.
But the Lord just, it's the part, this is not a formula. It is a plan to love and steward people well, but he has to do the inspiration work.
Yeah.
And so we can't control when that happens. We just offer the environment. And when it happens, the Lord speaks and they go.
Yes. So to that point, someone may be listening saying, but they might not be ready. They don't know everything. Like you haven't done 20 weeks of discipleship and they don't. How in the world can you send them out on this commissioned experience, in just 8 weeks?
Yep.
And we say 3 things. We say, we trust you. We trust our equipping of you. And we trust the Holy Spirit in you.
Yep.
So we trust those 3 things. And then beyond that, we have ongoing equipping where planters can come back to the table. They can come back to the aircraft carrier because you are going to encounter things out on mission, some friction, some like, oh, I don't know the answer to that question. I have no idea. And it is going to bring you back here and we're going to talk about it. And that is discipleship on the mission. We see Jesus do that with his disciples. He sends them out.
Come back.
And then he's like, what'd you guys learn? And they're like, well, it was a little intimidating, a little scary. The people didn't receive our message well. Let's talk about it. So Jesus models this for us, but you give a really helpful illustration that I'd love for you to share. And I stole it from you and I've shared it with churches and it was helpful for them. And that is about you teaching Elliot to swim. And so I would love for you to share that, just thinking about we could disciple these people for 52 weeks, right? And just take them through all the Gospels and every single way of evangelism and all the different tools. Or this pool illustration.
Or the pool illustration, which I will share about that, which isn't that deep. I appreciate the
It's
setup.
so good. It's just helpful.
But I will. And also to your point, I just want to remember, you're using the word discipleship, and I know what you mean because we define it here.
Yes.
So a disciple is someone who hears the word of God and obeys the will of God on the mission of God.
Yeah.
And so for those listening, that means them going missionally, then we're talking about discipleship.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean good maturity can't happen or growing in the faith. But when we talk about discipleship, we say hearing the word of God, obeying the will of God on the mission of God. And then the other thing is you said you can't equip people in 8 weeks. I agree. Which is why what they've experienced on the Alpha course continues in their toolbox to what they gather in the partner course, continues to gather in what they experience in the planter course, culminates in the going with what they've been equipped to do.
Correct.
And so we would be doing ourselves and those listening a disservice if we didn't keep the continuum of their experience together in their equipping.
Which you and I talked about in the growth track episode, that everything they do in here is a rep for what we want them to do out there. So I love that you tied that back in.
So they're not starting cold.
Correct.
In the course.
Yeah, please don't miss that. If this is your first episode, go back and listen to Dan and I talk about the growth track and how literally everything we do on the growth track is equipping them for what we want them to do as they're sent out on the aircraft carrier. So thank you for tying that back in.
And to your point about what you asked me to share about is the like, what is enough to share and inform. And, I was swimming, I think it was like last summer, and I'm sure pastors have probably used this illustration before, but I was with my daughter Elliot, and she was, I guess maybe 2 summers ago, so she was 5, and she was learning how to swim, and we were standing in 3 feet, and we were moving off of the water wings, And so we were doing the whole like, hey, I'm going to support the belly deal, and then I'm going to let you go, and your legs are going to go down, and you're going to sink like a stone, and I'm going to pick you up. And I was just, thinking about like equipping. This was probably over the summer. We're getting ready to start another growth track. And I was like, the church, and out of a good place, a good heart, wanting to equip, wanting to teach, teachers and pastors who are gifted to teach, executing their gift of teaching and wanting to do that more. What we can subtly and unintentionally do is over-instruct and help people under-experience. Yeah. And so with my 5-year-old, I could have sat on the pool deck and kept talking about what the temperature of the water would feel like, what water and surface tension is. Yes. And when you cannonball, it's going to feel like you're hitting a surface before it's fun. I could talk to her about H2O molecules and how I could go so deep on what it would look like, feel like. But at some point, you go, we're going to just get in.
Just get in.
And you're going to feel what it feels like. And you're going to go, is it supposed to be this cold? And I go, great. Now you have a context for us to have a coaching conversation or discipleship conversation. And so in a similar way, we don't do it perfectly, not even close. Yeah. But we do with humility and strategy want to have a system that helps people get in the pool. There's no deeper part of following Jesus than following him where he says to go and go, is the water supposed to be this cold? My legs are starting to sink. Am I doing something? Great. I have been by your side. I can coach and equip you from a church leadership perspective, but way more than my voice, your voice, or anyone else's voice. You have the presence and the power of the Holy Spirit who real time is encouraging, giving wisdom, giving direction, giving courage to you within your missional community as we each begin kind of doggy paddling out there. And so it's just one of those things. It's like, we humbly and with wisdom get people in the pool.
And I just think that's the most helpful illustration because then when someone is in the pool and I want to go to the deep end, I want more. Great, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you can swim in the deep end, how you can.
Yep, and their experience. I also say this too for a lot of churches who are curious and ask, because the church is so curriculum focused. Yeah, they're like, what curriculum do you have for your planters once they graduate the growth track? And I say, their life is now the curriculum. Yes. So as they are in relationship and discovering marriage conflict with somebody who doesn't know Jesus, how do you speak wisdom into a marriage that isn't founded? Their lived experience of helping people find and follow Christ is the curriculum that we can now coach into. Yes. So you don't need to read hypothetical books about what it could be like. You're now writing chapters, and it's your lived experience that we can coach into while you're on the mission. Yeah.
Oh, it's just, so good. I hope this is really helpful. The planter course is just a framework, these 8 weeks, and launching planters out on mission to be the church, just not at the church. I think about our planters who are coming back to the aircraft carrier with stories of, awesome. With like Anj and Tonya and Bob, and they have a whole group hosting Italian Alpha off-site, and they're coming back weekly, and they're like, I have this story for you, and also I have this question for you. What do I do about someone who says, and we're like, oh, what a great question.
And they bring that to the planter table, and missional communities are encouraging and swapping stories and praying for one another, and that's where the movement stuff and like collective maturity and discipleship happens when they come back from being on the mission.
Yeah. I don't know if I've shared on this podcast, but my very first, the moment I knew I wanted to be part of Mission Church, I was standing at a planter table. I did not want to move here from Indiana, but I was standing in the back of the room, just longing to really experience a movement of Jesus. And planters, full room, 25 planters. A woman expressed that she had been inviting her friend to mission for a long time. And the answer was just always no. And they said, well, does she come over to your house for dinner? Oh, yeah. We do dinners all the time. We have a girls' night, like a charcuterie night. And they were like, okay, hold on. So she'll come to your house, but she won't come here. That's great. You don't need her to come to mission. We don't actually ever need anyone to come to mission. Our heart is that they would know Jesus. So if she encounters Jesus through you and she comes to know Jesus in your basement at a charcuterie night,
kingdom win.
Praise God.
Good.
And it was like, oh yeah. And then they laid hands on her. They prayed for her that she would just view her home as the church, that like her and her husband, and I just literally tears in my eyes texted my husband like, okay, I have to be part of what's happening here. And that's what's happening when planters come back to the aircraft carrier to be equipped for what they're encountering out on mission.
And it's coming back. It's not an either or, it's a both and.
Yes.
And so they are out there in your home, in their home, being the church, just not at the church, but they're discovering the opportunity from that when they're here, gathered with the people of God, getting equipped. And so it's an and relationship.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
It's
Okay.
good.
Well, last 2%, I'd love to hear maybe your favorite missional community story or how you've experienced missional communities in your life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've got, there's been stories from missional communities that I've been in and led that have neighbors coming to faith and a lot of prayer walking and partying with neighbors, but kind of like an everyday normal thing that I think is just helpful for how do you translate like kingdom values in very normal ways. So our missional community helps Bloomingdale families who play soccer find and follow Christ. And we just did a very normal thing. I was coaching. So we intentionally, as part of our go, we're saying, hey, we're going to learn like 3 new stories of parents, names and stories. We're going to throw 2 parties, a mid-season ice cream party, and then a Coach Ruta closing celebration at our house. And we had these families and kids who, great families, like Catholic background, kind of go to church, kind of don't. So, and I just said, hey, we're going to be really intentional about the words we speak over these kids.
Yeah.
At the closing celebration.
Sweet. That's so sweet.
And so our missional community did a lot of thoughtfulness of like this child and what did they show and what is a word of hope we could speak over them. And so we had little medals and then I got the parents involved because to take a parent and engage them in speaking a word of hope over their child while a medal is going around their neck. It's almost like a picture of heaven, right?
That's good.
And so these are the type of everyday normal. It wasn't weird. We were eating cake and I was like, hey, come on up here. And I just went, you are a teammate that supports your friends. And then the parent would go, I am so proud of you. Way to go. And then the parent would put the medal over it. And just like, it's bringing a picture. And somebody listening might be like, that's not going to save anyone. Look, it's an everyday missional intentionality thing that is, in our context, binding families together and speaking a word of hope and encouragement over kids. They may not get it in their school, may not get it in their home, and don't get it in the church they don't go to. So why not take the opportunity to do that here?
That's so good.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've just been so encouraged by being out. I mean, I've never just been challenged to have my eyes open to who is already around me. So this has been personally challenging for me, to just be part of a missional community, to see my neighbors, to know their names. When you challenge us in the planter course, who are your neighbors? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know their names, and to learn their names. And we've been praying for one of my neighbors, and I am just believing that he will come to know Jesus. We've been doing, we actually just did a family vacation with them. So like the Lord is just opening doors for us to be part of each other's lives. And it's exciting to live on mission. It's really just, there's nothing like it. So,
and as the adventure continues, your prayer life and spirit dependency of what the Lord's doing in real time
100%
takes another level. So that's what we want for everybody.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Dan, for unpacking the planter course with us, the 3rd course in our growth track. And for anybody listening, for church leaders, we do have lots of resources for you. I have a shared Google Drive that I've shared with many leaders just about some of our resources and helpful, like even what does this map look like? We keep referencing the missional action plan. What does that actually look like? So if you'd love any of our resources, you can just reach out to us. We'd love to journey with you, but we're so grateful that you tuned in today, and we hope this blesses and encourages you. Thanks, guys.